Another example of issues affecting voting behaviour is in Thatcher. She was very popular because of the right to buy and because of her success in the war in the Falklands, so she ended up winning. In the elections where Iraq played a factor, Labour and the Conservatives, who'd supported it, had slightly lower votes than when they usually had, and the Lib Dems, who were the only party who opposed it, had greater votes than they usually had, especially from Muslims. Another example of issues.
Do newspapers shape their readers' views, or do readers shape the newspapers?
Magazines, television, radio and newspapers all influence voting behaviour. People are influenced by the editorial stance of the newspaper they read and tend to buy the same newspaper regularly. Many people believe that TV is more important than newspapers, as fewer people buy newspapers nowadays. Telegraph is dominant Tory. In 2010, 70% of the readers were Conservative and only 7% were Labour. However, The Guardian is a more Labour newspaper, with 46% of its readers supporting Labour in 2010 and only 9% being Conservative.
In the run-up to the 2010 UK general election, the Sun newspaper ran the headline, "Labour's lost it," letting readers know it had switched its support from the Labour Party to the Conservatives.
What party a candidate is can affect how many votes they get, sometimes depending on what area they're in. For example, the Tory party was seen as the nasty party in many of the elections that it lost in the mid-2000s. It was seen as unprofessional and right-wing and out of touch with people. Like, they didn't know what people wanted at all. New Labour, on the other hand, when Blair had changed it, won because they appealed a lot to the middle class and because they seemed like genuine change compared to the Tories and the Lib Dems. Another example of parties as a recency factor is how, now that both parties have moved to the centre, turnout is way down because voters feel that there's less difference between the parties. There's no point in voting.
The image of a party can influence voters. The Tory party was seen as the nasty party for a long time, and in 1997, 50% of people asked thought that they were out of touch with ordinary people. It was seen as an extremist party which was borderline racist and too narrow-minded. After the 2005 election, Michael Ashcroft wrote a book called Smell the Coffee, which prompted the Conservatives to change their image. Cameron became leader for the Conservatives in October 2005 and tried to detoxify the image of the party. In January 2010, he started a massive poster campaign promising not to change the NHS and had a slogan saying, "Vote blue, go green." Slowly, the Conservatives lost the title, the Nasty Party. One of the reasons that the Labour Party lost the 2010 general election was because of Gordon Brown's leadership. He was seen as a poor speaker and out of touch with the people. In early 2010, he had approval ratings as low as 35%, and the polls showed leadership to be as important as policies when people voted. The Labour government was very divided, and there was a lot of animosity. Much of his own party did not support him.
What candidate is running in a particular constituency can also affect how many votes they get. For example, party leaders tend to win in areas where the party might not otherwise do well. And for another example, Phil Woolas, who throughout his campaign was seen as pretty extreme, even though he was for Labour, accusing his opponents of racism and such, only ended up winning by 103 votes.